when I was about 10 years old. I was in a little debate with my cousin, who was a year younger. And my Aunt Margie, my godmother, said, you know, that Dale would make a good lawyer someday. You know, I never forgot that. It's interesting how we can say little things around our kids and children and how that may motivate them the rest of their life. That's amazing to me.
Welcome to Invention Stories on YouTube. My name is Robert Bear. I'm your host, and today our interview is with Dale Miller, the inventor of the chin-up strips. Do you or someone you love have a problem with snoring?
I was just a farm boy from central Wisconsin, you know, and my first love really was to become a broadcaster. And I did graduate from broadcasting school in Milwaukee School of Broadcasting. And I learned from that is I needed more education to be good at that job. So I started college and one thing led to another, and I kept remembering what my aunt said. And when the opportunity to go to law school came up, I went for it. Fortunately, I got married to a person that was a registered nurse, and that helped me through law school. That was a godsend.
I see you were a personal injury trial attorney. What did you enjoy most about that?
I love the trial aspect of the practice of law. There's nothing greater in the practice of law, in my opinion, than a final argument to the jury. In the beginning of a case, you prepare what you're going to say to the jury, and you work the case backwards. That's something we learned in trial practice. You picture the delivery and the facts you need, and then you set up the witnesses and exhibits to do it.
Do you find it was easier when you were as prepared as you could be?
Yes. And of course, it was much easier when all your witnesses said what they said they were going to say. You know, you're like a director of a play or a movie as a trial lawyer. Sometimes you get surprised by what the witnesses say, but generally it works out pretty well. I do remember one time going to the courthouse with my father when I was about 16 years old and observing a trial. That I remember that someday I might want to come back here and do that. And that was amazing.
Being a lawyer, that's big time. So you must have been pretty confident in yourself. I mean, it's not your typical 40-hour-a-week job.
No, that's true. I was not a confident person in law school because law school's tough. I mean, it's like you learn a new language, and the professors say in the first year, you look around and they tell you 30% of you won't be here next year. So you better really work your butt off to make sure that you pass the grades and continue. And so that motivates one to really pay attention. So, but that was a lot of work. Although what I have to say about going to law school is finally in college, I felt like I was learning something I was going to use the rest of my life. That motivated me more than undergrad did.
So how did you go from being a trial attorney to inventing the chin-up strips? What's the story behind it?
I told you I had a registered nurse as a wife. So when I was in my early 50s, and before that, she would keep telling me that I had stopped breathing during sleep. Of course, I snored loudly because I was a mouth breather. And like a typical male, I couldn't handle the truth. You know, I just kind of ignored it until in the late 1980s, I had two cases where drivers fell asleep at the wheel during the day and caused serious accidents, crossed center line. One driver was killed, seriously injured a number of other people. Another one, the driver fell asleep and a baby was killed in the other vehicle. And one day I just went home and said, this was after I did the depositions of the surviving spouses, learning about the sleep habits. Why does one fall asleep during the day driving? Sure enough, these drivers were snoring loudly at night, stop breathing. They'd fall asleep while watching TV in the day. And I'm thinking about it. And I said, when I got home to my wife, schedule me a sleep study immediately. I don't want to do what these people did to other people and themselves and their family, because they refused to acknowledge the fact that they had issues with sleep apnea and breathing and snoring. So back then, sleep apnea was becoming very, very popular as something we should be tested for if we snore loudly and stop breathing at night. Then I learned, of course, many people who die in their sleep, elderly or often die of sleep apnea, and they don't do autopsy normally. They think, well, they had a heart attack and the heart stopped. Well, of course, if you stop breathing for 2 or 3 minutes, you become unconscious. And of course, your heart stops after that if you're not breathing. Since then, I've become very aware of the fact that it's important for people who snore and stop breathing at night to get a sleep study. And now you can do those at home. And that is, for me, a lifesaver. I have more energy at 79 than I had in my early 50s because I was not a good sleeper. I would stop breathing. Of course, when you stop breathing, if your brain wakes you up, now you have to fall asleep again. And so you lose sleep. You don't get your REM sleep and you don't dream. For a couple of years, I never dreamed. I didn't realize that until after I got the CPAP machine, would sleep deeply. Wow, I'm dreaming again, and so if I say to anybody, if you're sleeping and you don't dream, you better get a sleep study because you're not getting complete sleep. You're not getting down to REM and deep sleep. And that's an issue you have to deal with or it'll take your life. So, I mean, it's serious business. That's how I really started in this.
But you were getting paid pretty well, I would imagine, from being a trial lawyer. Just from that to starting your own business, that's pretty radical.
Yes, although you reach a point in any career when you look around and say, is that all there is? So you meet the mid 40s, early 50s, where I've already practiced law for 30 years, and other things become attractive. And of course, this became a life-saving concern for me. And then when the doctor told me that if you could come up with something that was comfortable that would keep your mouth closed when you sleep, millions of people would want that. So after that, I went home and said to my wife, we can come up with something like that. This farm boy and this registered nurse, we can come up with something like that. So, and we did. We came up with a strip that would keep the mouth closed gently, and then went and had sleep study done. Actually, when I had the sleep study done with just the chin-up strip on, I didn't have sleep apnea. I mean, I was under what they call the level of, if you stop breathing 5 times or less during the night for 10 seconds or more, you really don't have sleep apnea. It's when you stop breathing 15, 20, 30 times an hour for 10 seconds or more. That's when the condition becomes very serious. So when I stopped my mouth breathing, the next test with a chin-up strip on was 5 times per hour I stopped breathing, not 22. So it's the mouth breathing that really leads to serious sleep apnea. And obviously it gets worse as we age.
I see people using sleep apnea, they use machines with the mask. Do you use a machine or you just use the strips? Or do you
for a number of years, I just used the strip. But then as I got a little older, and I had a lot of customers that were using the strip with their CPAP, I said, I'm going to start using that CPAP again and use it with the chin-up strip, because then I could just use little nasal pillows. I didn't need the big mask. I just could use little nasal pillows that blew air in my nose. And I said, this is really what we have to promote for people. You don't need the big mask if you're using a chin-up strip. All you need is the air flowing into your nose and make sure it doesn't just blow out the mouth. Inhale, exhale through the nose, use a chin-up strip and use your CPAP machine, because that's definitely the best treatment if you can get comfortable with it, is to use the CPAP with a chin-up strip, and you can lower the pressure on the CPAP machine and it make it very comfortable. You don't even know it's on.
What year was this?
Probably 1994.
Okay.
That's when I had the first sleep study. In 1995, had the second sleep study with a chin-up strip on, and after that, it was just a matter of getting together with Dr. Dan Cohen, who founded and launched the Breathe Right company in Minneapolis, and him helping us go to 3M and develop the chin-up strips.
Was your wife, I mean, she obviously had heard you snore from late 60s all the way to the mid 90s. Did she just get used to it? Did she whack you with a pillow from time to time?
Yes, and for years she did wake me up and poke me in the ribs, and I'd have to roll over. And of course, I wasn't getting good sleep then either, because I would be awakened by that. So, but yes, the spouse plays a big role. And it was interesting practicing law. There were a number of divorce cases, which I did. I did divorces about 10 years. A number of cases where it was the snoring that began the destruction of the marriage, because it became a real issue. And then one partner would leave the bedroom and go sleep in another room. And now we've lost some intimacy. And don't you know, once you lose intimacy, somehow there's another person of the opposite or same sex that'll come in and provide some of that intimacy that we all crave. And I found a number of ladies I asked, how did this start? And she said, snoring. It was the snoring I couldn't tolerate, couldn't sleep. Finally left the bedroom. And then, of course, I found this friend, or this friend found me. And that's how the marriage began to crumble. So that was a real surprise to me, but it's interesting. I can understand that. I mean, I can understand that loss of intimacy will lead to destruction of the marriage.
Yeah, it's just not going to help. What are chin-up strips?
Okay, this is a chin-up strip. Okay, and it's a 3M medical grade tape, and we use only 3M tape because they have the best quality on adhesive. And you take this little strip and you touch it to the top lip and you say up. And now I won't breathe through my mouth at night. I'll just breathe through my nose normally. And you don't even know it's on. And we experimented with all different types, and you have to have the upper lip free so that if you cough at night, you expel air and potentially fluid, because if not, that cough back blasts into your lungs, which is dangerous. I mean, if you have any upchuck with it, it could blast it back in and you could choke. So you always have to have the upper lip free, or the ability to expel air as you cough. And then it doesn't wake you up either if you cough and you expel air normally. If it blocks and back blasts into your lungs, that wakes you up, which destroys the whole purpose. You just want to avoid being awakened just because you cough during the night. So, and it's never good to do tape over the nose, I mean, over the mouth, totally. You know, and if you use a Breathe Right strip with this, we had sleep studies done with Breathe Right and chin-up strip, and the results were amazing. I mean, and that's what took us to the FDA to get FDA approval for the chin-up strip. And they didn't grant us approval for treating sleep apnea because that is a medical condition, and this is an over-the-counter product. So they said we can't allow an over-the-counter product to treat a medical condition. They said it would be an accessory item to CPAP or to other devices, because people that have dental appliances they use to prevent the mouth breathing also. But dental appliance doesn't fit well if your mouth is wide open at night. It's not working, and they would find the dental appliance in the pillow somewhere at night. But if you have a chin-up strip on with that appliance, it works just fine. I mean, and you breathe normally through the nose, and you're not snoring. Maybe you have a little purr through the nose, but it's not something that will disrupt your spouse's sleep. And so that's basically how this operates. It's making us breathe normally through the nose. And then you learn to breathe normally through the nose during the day too. Pay attention. And we've done studies with people that have been using these for years. They rarely catch the common cold, and they almost never get a sinus infection as long as they're breathing normally through the nose. Isn't that interesting? And like me, I almost never get the common cold. I mean, I don't ever get sinus infections. And that's true of the people that use our chin-up strips also.
Nice.
That was an amazing thing, but the customers kept saying, I haven't had a cold in a year or two. I haven't had a sinus infection. And so we did a study, and sure enough, people almost never catch the common cold when they use their chin-up strip every night. And they almost never get a sinus infection, which, wow, that's a significant benefit.
Well, it sounds to me like you like using studies, and coming from your background of being a lawyer, where you have the results of studies, I'm sure that's great evidence, right? And
right.
So this is sort of the same thing. I have to prove that this works. And
yes.
Did you go 3M? Did you fly there or drive there and work with somebody there? How did you get the prototype from your rudimentary first version to the version that they sell that is manufactured by 3M?
Well, first of all, the internet was really beginning when we started, so that was a godsend for us. And secondly, yes, we went to 3M. My son is involved in this also. And we went to 3M, and upon the advice of Dr. Cohen, who had founded and launched Breathe Right. And we sat down with them and worked on different types of strips that would work normally and wouldn't disrupt sleep. And they had to have the type of adhesive that would not cause skin irritations. So, and yeah, we worked with them to get the model. And then, of course, you have to go to the companies that make dies, because these have to be die cut off of a certain roll. You die cut the strips and package them, and they end up looking like this on a sheet. It also have a liner. And this is the one for the ladies. The ladies like this one better because it comes out further on the cheek and not as close to the tender skin near the nose. And then we also developed a white one. This is a polyester. And working with 3M, they said this one, it has a stronger adhesive, so it works with people that have a mustache or a goatee, or if you don't shave for a couple of days. This is the strip that works very well for that. And then you need to use warm water to remove the white strip, but that comes off from a hair surface, but you don't need warm water to remove the tan strips. In fact, we don't recommend it at all. They just peel off easily, as you probably saw me do that.
When did you start to the patent process part of it? Did you write it yourself? Did you have a friend that you knew or a colleague?
Fortunately, in the law business, you learn colleagues, and I knew a colleague in a law firm where I clerked in Milwaukee years before, and he was a patent lawyer. So we went and saw him, and of course, the first thing you have to do is do a patent search. Does anybody else have this out there? Does anybody have a patent on it? Well, no one did. So then you apply for the patent, and the patents were approved in 97, I believe. And then we started officially really in 1998, where we went on the internet and started selling. And the key thing, though, is to go to a patent attorney. I understood this from my patent attorney. It said, if you try to do it yourself, these engineers, the patent examiners, they have stacks on their desk this high, very high. And yours might not get to the top for a long time. But the patent attorneys work directly with those examiners. And they call and they say, what about this? Where's this one? Oh, here it is. Okay, we'll get that done. So if you have a patent attorney, you can get it done easily within a year. And they have the ability to draw up the pictures that you need to put into a patent submission. So it just works well to work with the patent attorney, yes.
Was there anything that even remotely addressed snoring when you started?
Well, yes, the Breathe Right strip talked about snoring as an issue. So they were already in the field as a external product with adhesive that would help snoring. But they didn't deal with the mouth breathing issue, which has broader implications than snoring. It has dry mouth issues, sleep apnea, tissue issues, gum disease issue. I mean, me, for example, for many years, I had bleeding gums. Go to the dentist and they go, wow, your gums are really breathing. Of course, the mouth breathing dries the mouth out, and the gums get sensitive and will bleed when the dentist is trying to work through them, cleaning the teeth. Well, I haven't had a dentist tell me I have bleeding gums in 30 years. I mean, it just since I've been wearing a chin-up strip, my gums are always perfect. And there's a disease, I can't think of the word of it right now, that where your gums start to fade away if they keep, if they're drying out every night. Is it gingivitis? It's something like that, but it's a serious disease that affects the teeth because of the mouth breathing. So
how did you develop the packaging?
We worked with packaging at first with boxes, and we had boxes made up. And the idea was that the stores like boxes more than anything else. We discovered, however, that the better solution was, like, we put these in envelopes that with a hang hole up here, and they can see what the product is on the back. Here's the product. Here's here are the white strips. All the information. Here is what's hanging in front of them, so they can read it and see it. So we went with the hang hole packaging, less expensive and more of a broadcast of what the strip is in the store. So we stayed with that. From our first experience with the boxes, it was expensive and it wasn't as easy to manage. These are easy to ship, and they don't get crushed. And so we stayed with the hang hole, and that seems to have worked very well.
Okay. And so since day one, they've been being made by 3M?
Yes. Other companies that have tried to get us to use their medical grade tape, and we tried a couple times, but one time you'd get great adhesive, and the next time it would be mush on the face, and you can't leave residue on the face. And 3M has fantastic quality control on the medical grade tape, and they're very sensitive to skin issues also in maintaining the level of adhesive. And so we have been really pleased with their service.
Where did you start selling them first, and how did you get to be selling 10 million of them?
Well, after we opened the internet site, I think it was in '98, and I remember the first email I got was, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen." And I said, well, we'll see. But as we had more exposure on the internet, and then I began to talk to sleep medicine doctors. And of course, there's a organization called Awake that is a sleep support group for patients that are interested in dealing with sleep issues. And then these Awake groups meet at hospital sleep centers all over the country. So that is where I began really physically going out and promoting the chin-up strip. I would travel to cities wherever the sleep medicine doctor would invite me and speak at sleep support group meetings, including sleep support meeting in California, where Dr. Dement actually developed the concept of sleep apnea and CPAP machines at Stanford. So what happened to us in Wausau, Wisconsin, we have a very little airport, and one day I had to speak in Oklahoma City at 7 o'clock at night. And I went at 8 o'clock in the morning to the airport, and they canceled the flight because they didn't have enough people.
Oh.
And so now I have to drive to Minneapolis, or I have to drive to Chicago, which is about 200 miles, to catch a flight. So at that point, we said, well, if we're going to do this, we have to move to a location where there is a big airport. And of course, from Atlanta, my daughter was here, grandchildren, and my son was moving here. And of course, from Atlanta, you can fly anywhere in the world. And there, if you miss one flight, there's another one. And you can get nonstop flights from Atlanta, and the price is usually much more reasonable too. So that's how we ended up in Atlanta. And from there, I've spoken at hundreds and hundreds of hospital sleep support groups around the country. And that's how we really got this thing rolling.
How'd your wife respond when you said, hey, I want to quit my job?
She was concerned, but before that, because my concern at that point was I wanted to be part of some kind of pension plan. So I ran for judge because they have good pension plans once you get elected for judgeship. And I lost by 65 votes. And I thought, well, there must be something else out there. As it turns out, that was the greatest blessing that ever happened to me, actually, other than marrying my wife, that I didn't get that job. Because then I actually started working with New York Life as an attorney and salesperson with them. And worked there 10 years and ended up with a very good pension plan. I continued that for a short time down here in Atlanta. But then once the sleep apnea and chin-up strip started rolling, I said, well, I just can't do the practice of law anymore. I just have to focus on this. And then, of course, one of the things that you're able to do as a golfer is go to the Masters golf tournament. You live in Atlanta and you know somebody that has tickets. My Masters story. So one of my golf buddies said, so when's your birthday? I said February. He said, well, you know what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to give you some Masters passes for when, when it comes up. And on my birthday, he said, I'll give you 4 passes. So then I started talking to a couple of my friends up in Wisconsin, who of course never have gone to the Masters and are golfers. One of them owned a golf course. And my friend said, and I'll bring along this friend of mine that just sold his company for $100 million. And he was a golfer also. And so the next thing I knew, the attorney of the fellow that sold his company from Nevada was calling, begging me to give him the 4th badge for the Masters, because I had 4 of them. I said, that's fine. So Masters came, we all went to the Masters. I spent most of the day with his attorney, and my friend spent the day with Jack. And Jack was really impressed with the Masters, as all of us were. And then we got into the car, and there had been some conversation about investing in the chin-up company. We got into the car at the Masters parking lot, and he said, Dale, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $300,000 to invest in the chin-up company. And I thought maybe it would be 25 or 50,000. And he said, I don't even want control, just give me 25% of the company. And the Masters event really put chin-up strip on the board. And the fact that I was here in Georgia, and he came up with the 300,000, and that's when I gave up the practice of law, and we went into promoting chin-up strip. And his friend introduced us, is part of the company too. He has 5%. So they were really, really helpful, and have been since as a board of directors. We have a corporation. Jim is an accountant and very much knows about things we have to do to keep everything up and up. No, that turned out to be the blessing of my life, except for marrying my Virginia, of course. That was really great. And then we simply helped the world sleep. Hundreds of thousands of these to Japan and the United Kingdom every year, and we ship them in 1,000-count rolls. So we still have our meetings, and we still love to play golf together, and it goes on from there.
Where are they being sold at?
They're being sold on the internet, on our website, chinupstrip.com mainly, and then that Medical Supply in Thousand Oaks, California, is a major reseller. They're being sold at drugstores and clinics in Canada. Being sold at, it's called British Snoring and Sleep Apnea Association in the United Kingdom. And beyond that, it's primarily our website that is the main seller, along with these other companies that sell a lot of them for us. And of course on Amazon. Amazon is also a big seller of the chin-up strips.
How did you come up with the name?
I don't remember for sure, except that the whole concept was keeping your chin up. We wanted to explain something where people would say, what's that? Chin-up strip, what's that? And so we just kept it at a very simple word that really described what it does. And that has been probably the best name I could have thought of, or we could have thought of. My son and I really put that together. Chin-up strip, and my wife put input in that too. But yeah, keep it simple, stupid, you know, the KISS method. We wanted to have a name that would require a response about what is that? So that's the way it is, simple.
You didn't, in your head, think you needed to have the word snore in there?
No, because when you get the thought of what is that, then they search for the answer, or you give them the answer. Snoring, mouth breathing, sleep apnea. And there are so many other devices that talk about snoring, and this was something we wanted to just have unique. What is that is the question that we wanted them to ask. And I think really it did. I mean, we go through our whole life, somebody say, keep your chin up, you know, and energy. And we have people that are in cycling classes that use chin-up strips because they find they have more energy if they're breathing in and out through their nose. And of course, that's true because the exhale is much slower and more oxygen is allowed to flow into the lungs and the blood and keeps you more energized. And James Nestor, that has written this book called Breath, if you want to read a great book about how you can extend your life and your energy level, it's on Amazon for, I don't know, a few bucks now in paperback, but just called Breath. And basically says we breathe too much. You know, we should inhale and exhale, inhale, like golfers now are doing that, of course, talking about inhale at the count of 5, exhale at the count of 6, just so that you get more oxygen into the bloodstream. And of course, it's very calming to do that. You just breathe. And then I saw recently a great way to learn to breathe more slowly is to hum a song when you exhale. Exhale and try and hum, you know, some melody. So it slows down the exhale and allows more energy into your body and bloodstream. Just amazing. We basically overbreathe normally.
Did you say that you work with your son?
Yes.
Or your son's part of it? How rewarding is that to be able to work with your son?
Yeah, he's been a key role because he's an IT guy. So he's all about the internet and all about how we use it. And he does all the accounting, and I'm the visionary. So, and he has to be the one that keeps the website going and keeping QuickBook up to date, and, you know, the accounts. And yeah, that's been really great for us to have him. He's 45 now, I think. And so he's very much involved, and it keeps us talking to each other on different levels, and he lives near us. So that's really great too.
How do you market how do you compete? How do you get the word out?
We use LinkedIn a lot. So I'm on LinkedIn every day, responding to people that have sent me responses. That's primary in the way we advertise, through LinkedIn. That's been really a great source of referrals. And then it's just a matter of trying to promote our customers to become raving fans. And if you haven't read the book about raving fans, that's really all about your customers talking to their friends about it. And that's been really great. And with every order we ship out, I put in a couple of business cards and that they can hand out. And they've been really great doing that. I mean, that has sustained us and just keeps it going. Because every family every family has someone who snores, stops breathing. I mean, it's just not something that happens once in a while. Every family has somebody they talk about who snores a lot, and that person is, or more than one, often looks for a source to resolve the issue. In fact, when I mention that, I know my father passed away in his sleep at age 65, and he was a very loud snorer and would stop breathing. And this was back in 1983 when there was very little known about medically about sleep apnea. And I'm convinced now he died in his sleep from sleep apnea. I mean, he just was otherwise healthy, and just one morning didn't wake up. And he stopped breathing long enough, as I indicated earlier, and you become unconscious, and that's it. I mean, it's a great way to go at 90, but not at 65, or a lot of people that die in their 40s from sleep apnea. If you have a snoring issue, or anybody tells you that you stop breathing at night, you better get a sleep study. It'll save your life, and if nothing else, it'll make you enjoy your life a lot longer and be a healthier person.
All right, Dale. Well, I want to thank you for being our guest today on Invention Stories on YouTube. But before I let you go, I'd like to ask you one final question. That is, say somebody who's very much new to the inventing world, has never created a product and knows very little about it, and they ask you for your advice. They say, hey, I got this idea for this. What advice would you give that person?
Number one is go online and search, do a patent search on your own. Number one is find out if somebody else has this idea, and it's available online. I mean, you just go to the government patent office and submit your idea and look for things that are similar to it. And you can tell right away whether or not you have something that you can patent. And if you can patent it, that makes it really much more valuable. And the next thing is you got to look at the marketing aspect of it. How can I market this? And now with the internet, of course, we can pretty much market anything. But then what segment of the population will use this product or want this product? So we got to focus on where that product might be sold. It's difficult to get it into stores without having had some history of sales from your own website. You know, you need to have some sale history before Walmart's or any of those stores will take it. We've stayed away from the big box stores. Walmart wanted a lot of money that we'd spend with them in advertising if we put it in their store, and we decided that wasn't the way we wanted to go. We stayed with our website as our main way of advertising and working through those sleep centers that I talk about, and also advertising on LinkedIn and other websites that would relate to us. So that's what I would say. I mean, it's not hard to get an idea of whether or not your product is unique by looking on the website. And secondly, if you think it's good, then you should talk to a patent attorney about having them do an actual patent search. And for a few $100s, you can get a patent search done. And they can advise you whether or not this is an item that we could patent. And then if you've got a good name for it, make sure you trademark, register that trademark. It costs 10 or 20 bucks to register a trademark so that nobody else can take your name. If your product becomes really good, you don't want somebody else to be able to say, well, hey, this is the same thing. So that's an important aspect of marketing and having a product that somebody will want to buy.
Anything you'd like to add? Any final thoughts?
I appreciate the opportunity to recall the history of the Chin-Up Company. I appreciate the time and desire on your part to listen to the story and record it. And if there's anything I can do to help any people that have questions about marketing a product, just have them send me an email. You know, just I can become part of their inventor's story also. and I'm willing to help.